Hey there, it's Angela, and I'm so glad you found your way here to architecting. Creative careers can be stressful, and it's hard to be vulnerable, but this is your landing pad for raw honesty. I'll help you get clarity, reconnect with your passion, and have the career of your dreams. If you're ready to make a difference, have an impact, and say bye-bye to burnout, stick with me, and let's get architecting. Hey Bright Lights, it's Angela, and you are here. Architecting is your landing pad for raw honesty about what's really going on in our profession. I'm Angela, and I am a full-time practicing architect who's made it my mission to help you overcome the overwhelm, the stress, and the burnout that are draining your energy and blocking you from having the life and work you really want, something I call success on your own terms. Remember to like, rate, and review this wherever you are listening. Believe it or not, it really does help more people find this content, and it builds our community. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, get yourself over there and make sure you do that now. You can hear the podcast on YouTube. You can also see videos when I do interview episodes. And there is some really amazing bonus content that you don't want to miss. Head on over to YouTube and like the Architecting channel. Today, I have a great question from a member of our architecting community. And just a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and send them to me via our LinkedIn page, which is called Architecting, or you can DM me at Architecting Podcast on Instagram, or email me at angela@architectingpodcast.com. So Betsy was concerned about jealousy, especially what happens as you start to gain traction in your career and begin to accelerate past your current mentors or leadership in the firm. And as you're rising, you might start to ruffle the feathers because your success is perceived as threatening to higher ups. She wanted to know what happens when peers or even mentors start exhibiting signs of jealousy. Things like backhanded compliments or shifts in the dynamics of how you interact. What used to be encouragement now feels more like subtle criticism. She even gives an example, like maybe you're at a networking event and a client congratulates you and your colleague responds with something like, yeah, it's very well deserved. Basically, they're calling into question the legitimacy of what you've accomplished. She wants to know, how should someone in this position handle it? How can they navigate this situation with grace, both for themselves and for their mentors or peers who may be overshadowed? Let's start with what jealousy is all about. At its root, it is about lack-based thinking, where we believe there's a world where the pie is only so big. So if you get more, I get less. As a basic survival instinct, if we see somebody who we think is going to take away the pie that we want, that is a threat. However, life is not a pie. We can all succeed. It's more like the way that love works in a parent-child relationship. If you have one child, you love that child. If you have two children, you don't have less love for the first child in order to give love to the second child. You're able to max out your love for both of them. If you had 5 children, that would still be true. There would not be a limit to the love you would feel for your children just because there were more of them, because your love has no limits. And it is the same with success. There really are only two emotions out there, and that is fear and love. Fear is closed off, protective, lack-based thinking. Fear is always on the lookout for how something is going to be a threat or take something away. Love is expansive and limitless, about joy. We've all felt both of those feelings. I was just listening to a podcast where the host was talking about everything from the jawline down, your body is love. And everything from the jawline up, your mind is fear. And our job every day is to be much more embodied so that we don't just take off in this endless thought spiral. So back to the idea of jealousy. Because it comes from lack and fear, we're especially vulnerable to be jealous when there's economic pressure, when we're in highly competitive environments. Anything where resources seem scarce are going to bring out those feelings. What's worse is people who feel this fear and lack are not recognizing that. They feel shame about outwardly being petty, or they know it's wrong to sabotage someone else. So they try to mask their feelings, which over time undermines your integrity, because you're being essentially dishonest and deceitful when you pretend to support someone, but really you are looking out for number one. That's the psyche of the person who is jealous. As Betsy's already experiencing, this jealousy is eroding the trust in relationships, whether that's between the person who is jealous and the person they are jealous of, or the team that you're trying to work with, or even the organization. Because when someone is jealous, they will either start to ignore you and freeze you out, or be overly critical just because. And that is a phenomenon called confirmation bias. It's something I've studied as part of my work in salutogenesis, but it's also true in how we navigate the world. You'll see it a lot in politics. If you really like a candidate, you will gloss over their flaws and their missteps. And if you don't like a candidate, they can't breathe the right way. You're going to interpret literally everything they say and do in a negative way because you're expecting to see the bad in them because you don't like them. And the same thing happens in the workplace. Once somebody has decided that you are a threat, confirmation bias kicks in, and now they only see the ways that you are not measuring up, and they minimize the good things about you. It can be especially toxic if that person is in a senior position to you. They can start to color the perception that others have of you. At the Harvard Business Review, Tanya Menon and Lee Thompson spent time studying this effect and wrote this great article called Envy at Work that deals with a lot of the topics we're going to hit on today. Researchers at Harvard have even noticed when they studied envy, particularly in the workplace, that confirmation bias means that someone will be more receptive to someone else's idea, even if it is the exact same idea that you had, simply because it came from you and they're triggered by you, versus someone else who they are not triggered by, where they can really embrace the idea and see it in a much more abstract way, since that colleague or that outside source even is not a threat to them. How do we handle this? I'm going to talk about both what to do if you yourself are experiencing jealousy towards someone else, as well as if you feel like you are the target of someone else's jealousy. First of all, we have to recognize that the reason jealousy is happening is because we feel called ourselves to be doing or achieving or living a certain way. We see somebody like a celebrity living that way, or maybe a famous architect that we don't know. It doesn't feel threatening. It feels aspirational. But when it's somebody we know, that's so close to home for us that it then starts to feel like a threat. We can turn this around and see that it's merely a sign that we really need to direct our energy to achieving those things too. It's very possible, Betsy, that your manager plateaued, maybe reached a certain level in his or her career and is kind of coasting now. And they see you accelerating, and it's reminding them that they have been stagnant for a while. It's uncomfortable to have to shift gears again and get back into growth mindset mode and keep achieving and keep accomplishing, reminding them of that. And that's why it feels threatening. If you notice these feelings in yourself, don't run from them. They're not shameful. They are your billboard sign that this is where you need to put attention in your life. And if you see them in somebody else, have the compassion to realize that that is the same for them. Focus on how things can be constructive, not comparison-based. Another hallmark of jealousy is comparisonitis. You constantly are doing the metrics of what did I do? What did the other person do? How am I better? You're counting the beans and you're taking score. In life, it is a combination of three essential elements: hard skills, soft skills, and your energy. People can sense when you are bringing loving, optimistic energy to a situation, and when your energy is driving or pushing or withdrawn, and they will resonate with that. So you may have the exact same skills as your colleague, but if you have better soft skills and bring a different energy, you will get promoted before they do. If all they're looking at are these metrics, which are usually the hard skills, they're going to be very resentful and jealous because they're going to say, I learned how to use AR software. I know how to use Revit better. I know more about how contracts work. So why did Betsy get the promotion? She's barely competent in some of these programs, and others she doesn't know at all. Meanwhile, you're overlooking the energy and the warmth that Betsy brought to the project, or the way that the client has resonated with her in a meeting that made a difference in moving the project along. So remember, leadership is about more than the hard skills. It is also very critically the soft skills and the energy. And if you're going to compare to yourself. Present you is an amalgamation of all the past yous. 6-year-old you is in there. 20-year-old you is in there. 30-year-old you is in there. And when you look back over your life and your accomplishments, you feel better about where you are because you see how far you've come. Did you have a goal that you set 2 years ago? You probably have minimized a lot of the accomplishments because maybe you didn't get the ultimate end point of that goal. But if you were to look back, you would see how radically your life has shifted as you've made progress toward achieving that goal. Feel good about that. Remember, stressless success is about success on your terms. Someone who is very successful in the office might have burned down every other part of their life at the altar of work. Is that what you would want to do? Is that trade-off worth it to you? And if it isn't, don't feel bad that they're more productive than you are, because you are choosing to spend your energy in a different way. You are opting for a fuller, richer life over a mono-focused life. So give yourself credit for what you are doing. And if you are dealing with someone who's directing jealousy toward you, it might be helpful if you can point out their successes to them and to others along the way. It helps to diffuse the tension. Another way that we can really appreciate what someone who is triggering jealous emotions is doing for us is to write them a thank you letter. So by now you're probably well aware of Taylor Swift's song, Thank You, Amy, which is an expression of gratitude towards Kim Kardashian, who had been a thorn in her side rival over a period of many years and actively tried to sabotage her career. What she acknowledges in the song is, I wouldn't be this if there hadn't been you. So yes, the things that she went through were negative. She's not giving a hall pass to bad actors. However, she's also acknowledging that those steps along the journey helped her be a better person. Think about how you could write your own thank you. What could you thank them for bringing into your awareness? Maybe it's better communication skills. Maybe it's better skills at dealing with conflict. We talked last episode all about conflict management styles. So maybe because you had to deal with conflict, you've gotten really good then, and that's a skill that's going to serve you. Maybe it's helped you to be a better negotiator. Maybe it's helped you to get more clarity about what you really want and don't want in a career. Write that thank you letter to them. Well, this one is going to sound a little bit strange, and that is look for opportunities to collaborate. And you're probably thinking, I want to stay the hell away from anyone who might be saboteur in my life. Run far, run fast. Well, if you don't need to have a relationship with this person, maybe distancing yourself politely, fading out can work. But if they are actively part of your network or you work at the same company, fading away from them isn't going to put you out of their sphere of awareness, which means, unfortunately, that the more success you have, the more their jealousy is going to rise, and the more they're going to do and say things that are less than helpful for you. There's that negative energy there that we don't want. When we remind ourselves that the best leaders are the ones who have advanced others, not hoarded their power. When we realize that you increase your status when you give away power, it makes collaborating a lot easier. And it doesn't mean you're going to collaborate by doing the same task. That's going to only aggravate the comparisonitis and the sense of, how well are you doing at this task? I'm doing this. What are you doing? Are you doing it better? Did you bring a new idea in or a new tool? And we don't want that. That's just fueling the jealousy. Is the person who you're dealing with somebody who has some skill sets that you don't? Could you collaborate with them in a way that leverages their strengths? Well, you work in areas that leverage your strengths, and therefore you're collaborating together, doing parallel tasks. So now it is much easier to move past the scarcity and to see how both of you can do well, and how, in fact, the better you both do, the better the project turns out. And lastly, use conscious language. What you say and how you say it, the specific word choices you make matter. I did a whole podcast episode on this topic as well because conscious language is such a big deal, especially in business communications. Any label that you apply to a person or a project that implies there can only be one of something will create an opportunity for jealousy. Because remember, at its root, jealousy is about lack-based thinking. If there can only be one leader, I want to be that leader, and if you're blocking me or seem like you're going to get it, I'm going to want to sabotage you. If everybody was a leader, there would be no implementers, so that wouldn't be good. There would be critical skill sets around hard skills that wouldn't get cultivated if everybody was a leader, something that the Harvard researchers point out. They also point out that innovation could be a red flag to a lot of people. And while innovation is a great thing to strive for, using it as a goal or a measure of success in a project can be bad because it pushes people to try to do what's never been done before, to try to craft all kinds of elaborate stunts that are a waste of time and energy, probably not good for the project, and to build that competitive nature with their peers. It's important to realize that innovation isn't always about novelty and inventing something that's never been done before. Sometimes the best creativity can come from understanding how to make something that's already out there better. So instead of reinventing the wheel, you are building on the technology to build the race car. Apple is a company that is a great example of that. Most of the products that have been the runaway success industry game changers were not products that didn't already exist. The company wasn't saying, there's this thing called a computer and nobody's ever had one before. They said, there's this thing called a computer and the operating system is not intuitive. Let's build it better. They didn't say, boy, it would be really cool if you could take a phone anywhere you went. Cell phones already existed. BlackBerries and other devices that were the original smartphones, those existed too before the iPhone came out onto the market. They looked at existing products and found a way to make them better, more user-friendly. They looked to overcome the pain points that people experience. They looked for features people wanted that weren't currently available. A great example of how innovation is not always about something that has never been done before. Using existing ideas and building on them is often way more valuable than inventing something totally new. Think about that as well as you are encountering these colleagues, either if you are feeling jealousy yourself or if you feel that they are developing jealousy towards you. How can you build on one another's ideas or build on someone else's idea and continue to make it better? Thanks, Betsy, for writing in this great question. I hope you all got a ton of value out of this episode. Love you all so much, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening. If you want even more content, head on over to architectingpodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter and get some great free downloads while you're there. Be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram at Architecting Podcast, Facebook and LinkedIn pages are Architecting, and the YouTube channel Architecting Podcast. Stay inspired.